Hello and welcome to KidzByte TV, an exclusive channel by kids and for kids. I am your junior TV anchor, Shaunak Kanavia. Today we have a very special guest and quite an interesting personality with us. She is none other than Mata Monique. Let me give you all a quick introduction. Mata Monique spends her time working between Pune in India and Brooklyn in New York City. Along with acquiring a diploma from London School of Journalism, her long and illustrious career has been spent as a journalist, where she wrote about her travel and culinary journeys in India. She is currently the content manager at a digital media company called Jet Synthesis, where she creates audio and video content. Her interest in the science, symbolism, and significance of ancient Indian philosophy led to her avatar as Mata Monique, where she provides practical reasons for Hindu narratives. And that's how the Mata Monique podcast began. Pranam Mata, thank you for joining us, Mata Monique. I'm quite excited to interview you today. I hope you're ready.
Namaste, Shaunak. I'm completely ready. Thank you. I'm so excited and looking forward to this interview.
Thank you. So let me first start by asking you, what was the inspiration for Mata Monique?
That's a very funny story, actually. When I first joined Jet Synthesis, I was working on a platform of theirs, which was about Hindu narratives, Hindu mythologies, Hindu philosophy. And I'm basically a writer. So I was editing all the content. And there was one story, and I think it was something to do with Vishnu and Ekadashi. And it says that Vishnu turned in his sleep, and that's why people fast. And even though I was not a Hindu follower, I was like, there's something wrong with this story. So I started researching, and I realized that it's the reason why that particular festival was celebrated is because of the sun rising in the southeast direction, beginning its southward movement. And I said, there's something more than just stories in Hinduism. There is a significance to them. There's a scientific reason behind them. And so I started researching more and more into that. And I realized that we need to know more about the depth of this philosophy that we call Hinduism. Slowly that morphed into Mata Monique, who decided that she is going to share this knowledge with the rest of the world. And that's how Mata Monique was started.
That's a very interesting journey. So, how did you decide on this name?
So, as I said, when I first started working, I was not really into Hinduism or following any religious norms or anything like that. But because of my research, I started acquiring a lot of knowledge about the philosophy in Hinduism. So my friends used to joke with me. My nickname is Monique. So they always call me Monique. And they started joking and they said, you're like a mata, like a guru, who knows everything and who's instructing us and telling us about all these things. So they said, you're like a Mata Monique. And when we were at work sitting around deciding that, we're going to create this persona who is now going to talk to children and adults and teenagers about the mythology and the science significance and symbolism behind it, they were like, what should we call her? And I just laughingly said, my friends call me Mata Monique. And they were like, that is perfect. So that's how the Mata Monique name came about.
Very interesting. And what do you enjoy about the Mata Monique persona? Is there anything different?
I won't say there's anything different in the sense that it's me. What I love about Mata Monique is it allows me to be me. I am not that serious of a person. I love to have fun. I love telling stories. I love entertaining kids. And I have little quirky tendencies. I'm a little bit, off the chart. I dress funky. I do different things. When you think about a guru or a mata, you think of somebody with a big bindi, wearing a sari and, this Rudraksh mala. I don't do any of that. So what I love is that Mata Monique is your modern day guru, your modern day mata, like all the kids can relate to her, like our grandmother who tells us stories, but she's got color in her hair and she's got bizarre jewelry and she wears shorts, so she's a mata we can identify with. And I like that about Mata Monique.
That would be fun to listen to. I'm keen to understand, how would you convince people to listen to your podcast if they aren't interested in going deeper into Hindu mythology?
That's a very interesting question, Shaunak. And for that, again, I roll back to how I started. Because as you know, everybody in India grows up with the stories of, Ram and Lakshman and Sita and Ganesh and all these various Hanuman and all these stories, and you listen to them as stories. But what you don't realize is that there is something behind all these stories. So I had also always grown up with these stories. But when I started understanding what is behind those stories, I automatically got interested because there is so much depth behind everything. So I think that the narratives lend themselves to get people to be interested in them. Um, if I start telling you the stories, you yourself will say, Monika, tell me more, or Mata Monique, please tell me more stories, because they are just so fascinating. So I don't think I need to even ask people. They need to listen to one or two and they will automatically get hooked. That's all I can say about that. I don't know if you ever heard of a series called The Magic School Bus. There was a
Heard
lady
of
called
it.
Miss Frizzle. I adore Miss Frizzle. I think she's a crazy, quirky lady. And you would think, what a silly person this is. But the minute you jump onto her school bus and she takes you into these stories, you are learning about, space and inside your body and everything and going into a forest. But you don't even think you're learning because the stories are so interesting. Similarly, with Mata Monique, I feel like, the stories are so interesting that when you get onto the Mata Monique, Pushpak Viman, you don't think about anything other than the stories and what you're learning. So they just automatically come to you.
That's a great way to get people to listen. So, do kids need to know about Hindu mythology? What's your take?
I mean, I don't think anybody really needs to know. There is no need to know, but I think it's interesting for them to know because this is part of their culture. At the end of the day, and it's not just Hindu mythology. I would say it's about India, and it's about the Indian culture and Indian philosophy in ancient India and how it was at that time. Um, because it's part of the Hindu scriptures, we call it Hindu mythology, but it's actually all of our backgrounds, everybody who lives here. It's our roots. You know, people are interested in Greek mythology. People are interested in Roman mythology. So why not the mythology that comes from ancient India? Everybody nowadays is watching Marvel. You love Spider-Man and Superman and all these superheroes. Do you know that we have our own superheroes? We have Hanuman and who jumps here, and we have Krishna who will become big and small. We have our own superheroes. So why not start following our things and boast about our superheroes and make them famous globally? So I think it's interesting if children get interested, because then they will be proud of their culture, they will be proud of their heritage, and they will stand tall and boast about it too. And at the same time, they will learn a lot, because there is so much knowledge that you find out through these stories. And I'll give you a simple example. There's a story about Hanuman where Hanuman was a child and he saw the sun in the sky and he said to his mother, oh, look, there's a fruit there and you always tell me to eat fruit. So I'm going to grab that fruit and eat it because I'm hungry. And he jumps to grab it. What is interesting in the scriptures is that they say Hanuman jumped 12,000 yojanas to grab that fruit. If you convert 12,000 yojanas into today's distances, it's 0.3 decimal points of the distance of the earth to the sun. This is over 5,000 years ago. This is the kind of knowledge you would get, that you would know what the distance between the earth and the sun is by just listening to a story. So these are the kind of things that you find out through these stories.
Wow. So I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your podcast, especially your take on Hindu philosophy being a blueprint for life. These are important lessons for kids, but podcasts can be boring. Would you consider videos which are way more appealing? How would you do them?
100%. I mean, I totally agree with you. Podcasts can be boring. Though, Shaunak, I hope that when people listen to the Mata Monique podcast, they don't feel bored, because I would love to tell it in a way that they won't feel bored. However, I know that everybody needs visual stimulation. So videos are 100% the way forward. And Mata Monique also wants to go ahead and do videos. In fact, we have done a couple of sample videos to see how they'll go. Inshallah, let's see. Hopefully they will go on. But how will I do it? We would create the characters to be more modern, so that children can relate to it better. If you look at ancient stories, the people are always dressed in a certain way, and they're old fashioned, and you can't identify with those characters. So what Mata Monique wants to do is to have trendy people, to show interesting things, to make it more relevant to modern day, so people can identify with it. And if you identify with it, you will be interested in watching it more. So let's see, fingers crossed, one day there'll be Mata Monique videos for sure.
Okay, so how do you pick what stories to tell? So is it random, or do you have a timetable for what story you do every day?
I don't actually have a timetable. um, I would say it's a little bit between random and picked. Initially, I started picking stories that were more popular, that everybody knew. The story of Ganesh, and the story of Dhruv, and the story of Krishna, and stuff like that. But there are so many stories in Hindu mythology. So then I start picking randomly stories that I think will be of interest or of appeal. It's based on my personal preferences. However, I'm very open to suggestions. So suppose if somebody like Shaunak, suppose you've heard something and you'd come back to me and say, Mata Monique, I'd love to know more about this. Can you tell me the story? I will 100% research it and find out and bring a little bit more of the symbolism, significance, and scientific relevance to that story and share it. So there's a little bit of randomness, there's a little bit of thought process, but that's how I pick the stories.
That's an interesting way to pick stories. Is there another project you're looking forward to? Maybe a new episode or a podcast?
Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I'm planning to do something, but it's not Mata Monique related. Something else that is very close to my heart is about women and empowering women and that sort of stuff. So I'm doing another podcast which is to do with women. So that's something else I'm looking forward to.
Interesting. So that was great. Your oration skills are great. It's one of the many charms of your podcast. What advice would you give kids who want to be public speakers, like anchors, and even have their own podcast?
That is such an awesome question. And I'm so glad that you've asked me this question. I think there's one most important thing that everybody has to do, and that is do your homework. Research the hell out of everything. Thank heavens for Google. If it hadn't been for Google, you can't really do it as often and as well. I also believe in making notes. I go over them many times so that I know my subject matter. When you're asked a question, you should be able to answer it. And if you can't, you should be able to say, I'm sorry, I don't know that. Let me check it out and I'll get back to you. That makes a good anchor also. And once you've done all this, it becomes much easier to then get the confidence to be able to speak or host. Of course, I get nervous, especially when I start something new. It takes practice. repetition and time and again, you keep doing it, and slowly, you'll relax into that role of the anchor or the speaker or the podcast host. Have cue cards ready. Be honest if you're new. Tell your audience, I'm new, and if I make any mistakes, I apologize beforehand. And then eventually, you'll get better to it. People will then give you a chance. So that's my little take on it.
Thank you for the pointers. So that was great. Now it's time to take this interview to the next level. I have
Oh
some
boy.
rapid fire questions for you. I hope you're all set.
Okay.
Let's get started.
Absolutely.
3, 2, 1. Let's go. Do you have a role model?
Oh God, that's a tough one. So I guess I don't have just one person, because when I think about role models, it's less about a person and it's more about qualities that I admire and I want to emulate. So I have different people from whom I pick different qualities of empathy, articulation, presentation, the ability to connect. So I would say, maybe like a Princess Diana, because I'm totally into fashion and, that sort of stuff. There's a lady called Anu Aga, who's somebody I completely admire. I love Michelle Obama. She's a great woman, who one can look up to. She's an amazing writer. And because I create content and I write, I like that. And 100% my mother, because my mother has given me the wings to be able to become the person I am. So I would say it's a combination of all these people.
Other than Hindu mythology, is there any other subject you're interested in?
As I said, I'm not a feminist, but I'm 100% about women empowerment. So yes, that is one of the subjects. But I love history of the world, the origins of the universe. I always say to myself, if I had to turn the clocks back and start all over again, I would love to look at anthropology or astronomy, because I'm fascinated by how this amazing universe that we live in started and was created. So that's my other subjects of interest.
Interesting. So, what is your favorite pastime?
150% reading. I am a bookworm, and you will always find me with my nose in a book. That's my favorite thing to do.
Okay, so your favorite song?
I have two, actually. I'm a huge fan of a group called the Beatles, which you may never have heard of, but they are like a 60s, 70s, early 70s band. And they have a song called She Was Just 17. And she was just 17. You know what I mean. And the way she looked was way beyond control. That's one of my favorite songs. And the other one, I love Bollywood movies. And there's a song I identify with because it speaks to me, because I feel I'm a little bit like that. And that's the song called Badtameez Dil, Manina, Manina. So that's my other favorite song.
Any quote that inspires you?
There's a poet called Hafiz, and Hafiz has said, there's a quote that he said, let me just see if I can remember it. The sun never looks at the earth, the sun warms up the earth, never looks at the earth and says, you owe me. Look at that kind of love. It brightens up the world. And I love that quote because it's about, unconditional love without having something given back to you.
Is there any favorite book you have?
I told you that I love reading, right? And you'll find my nose in a book all the time. So it's like asking a mother who's your favorite child, which is very difficult. Having said that, I would say currently I have a favorite book. It's called 40 Rules of Love by a Turkish writer called Elif Shafak. And it's based on the life of a poet called Rumi. It's one of the most profound books I've ever read. So I would say that is my current favorite book.
Okay, so what is Mata Monique's message to the world?
Oh boy. I would just say follow your passion and just be yourself. It's very important. At the end of the day, it's just one life. Enjoy it. Don't take it seriously.
Very true. So now for a few tongue twisters, you have to repeat these 5 times and quickly.
Mm, wow. Okay, let's try.
Okay, first one. You know, New York, you need New York. You know, you need unique New York.
You know, New York. You need New York. You know, you need unique, New York.
Yes,
Okay.
5 times.
You know, New York. You need New York. You know, you need unique New York.
Faster.
You know, New York. You need New York. You know, you need unique New York. You know, New York. You need New York. You know, you need unique New York. You know, New York. You need New York. You know, you need unique New York. You know, New York. You need New York. You know, you need unique New York.
Good try. So here's a 4-word tongue twister. It's very difficult.
Okay.
So upper roller, lower roller.
Upper roller, lower roller.
Yeah.
Upper roller, lower roller. Upper roller, lower roller. Upper roller, lower roller. Upper roller, lower roller. Upper roller, lower roller.
Good one.
Okay.
So this is a 3-word tongue twister. World Wide Web.
Sorry? Bald white?
World Wide Web. The full
Oh,
form of
World Wide Web.
www.
Okay. World Wide Web. World Wide Web. World Wide Web. World Wide Web. World Wide Web.
Great try. So
thank you so much, Shaunak. I totally enjoyed speaking with you. It was really fun, especially those tongue twisters.
thank you. That's all for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this special interview with the one and only Mata Monique. Thank you, Mata. Stay tuned for more
Thank
only
you.
on the KidzByte app. This is Shaunak Kanavia signing off.